friends, and welcome to a very fun episode of Machine Shop Mastery. I just spent a delightful 60 plus minutes, 70 minutes with Barry Walter Jr., and this guy is a fantastic storyteller, a great leader, a consummate learner he says he listens to hours of podcasts per day. He's listened to every single Making Chips podcast, every single one of my Machine Shop Mastery, pretty much every podcast you can think of in the machining space and others. He's probably listened to it. And you can just tell there's a deep wisdom about him. There's a deep understanding about the importance of culture, of core values, of just being a thoughtful, excellent, he didn't use the word servant leader, but I know that's kind of what he means when he says shit flows uphill in his company. It always lands on his shoulders. At the end of this, you're either going to want to move out and go work for him or just be inspired by what he's doing. So we talk about all sorts of great things, but the stories are really the part you'll take away, and hopefully they will resonate and maybe help you think about your business a little bit differently. So enjoy this really fun conversation with Barry. Barry, my friend, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Paul, thank you for having me. It's an honor, honestly. So,
well, before we hit record, you were just saying how much you've listened to Making Chips for basically 10 years since it was the beginning.
Since the beginning, yep.
My show as well.
Yeah, when you were on Making Chips in the beginning, I mean, you were one of the first guests, and what you do to try to make sure that the manufacturer is represented in everything, it's just awesome. So I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you. They're the real heroes of our economy, of the industry. And
thank you, Machinist.
Thank you, Machinist. Yeah. I'm wearing the shirt right now.
There you go.
Every day. So not just for recording days.
Right.
My wife's like, can you wear another shirt sometimes?
It's easy. I don't have to think about it. No, doesn't take any bandwidth.
Right. That's right. But here we are. I'm quickly learning you are a man of serious intent and study. You listen to hours of podcasts a day. It is now 5 p.m. on a Friday before a weekend, and you're like, let's bang out a podcast. You know, so you are.
It's the best time for me. It's 5 o'clock. Everybody on a Friday. Everybody else is gone, so I gotta spend some time and talk with you and talk about the trade that we love.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that.
Sure.
You know, you sent me some things to read up on the history of the company. Your grandfather was a machinist in the Navy, is that right?
Yeah. So he grew up a farm kid in Indiana, and he was not going to go to college. His parents were going to pay for college. He wasn't going to get into college, whatever. And he joined the Navy. World War II broke out. He was stationed in like New Zealand, Australia, and he worked on. He was a machinist in the Navy, and he worked on the PBY-5 Catalinas. We've got a lot of millennials here at our place, and I love telling them, it's like, look, there wasn't an Amazon. It was the war. They couldn't just call up a part and have it brought out, right? So it was one of those things that you had to have somebody that made the replacement parts, the repair parts for the planes. And so he got out of the Navy. He went and ended up in Southern California and was working for a plumbing supply house. During that time, there was, you had the war, you had the Depression. There were a lot of those companies were out of business that were making the plumbing for buildings. And long story short, he talked his boss into buying a machine, and he put it in his garage, and he'd go home at night. So the plumber would come in and say, "Do you have this part?" And he'd say, "No, but I'll have it tomorrow." And so he'd go home and make 2 or 3 of them, and he'd keep that sample. And that's critical to the story of our company, because that's the beginning of it all. He would keep the sample and the valve bodies, collect valve bodies and all these parts, and he made plumbing parts, and that's what we do now. We've got customers throughout the country. We sell strictly to the OEM, plumbing supply houses, and wholesalers. Mm-hmm. We don't sell to plumbers. We don't sell to maintenance people. We're selling to the it's B2B.
So if someone goes to a big box hardware store, can they find your products on the shelf, or are you more commercial grade?
Yeah, well, it's I'm very intentional in who we sell to, who our customer is, and so you had guests on lots of times about talking about firing customers, and I'm a big proponent that you should be interviewing and choosing your customers the same way you interview and choose your team members. So we don't sell to HD Supply, Home Depot. I just have no desire whatsoever. The biggest plumbing supply houses or the biggest plumbing supply house in the country is we call it the F word, Ferguson.
Okay.
So we try to they have an account with us, but we try to like kind of
Right.
we really focus on that independent plumbing wholesaler. We're a small family business, and so we know that independent plumbing wholesaler has the same challenges and struggles that we have as a small family business, and so that's who we're trying to support the most. Our company, so my grandfather, like I said, he started that business, and that was in the 50s, and he could do anything. He could build anything, make anything. We've still have straddle mills that he did air cylinders on that would feed the part through, put two flats on it, index, come back, feed it through again, and he could automate, he could build anything, but he wasn't a great businessman. You know how you've heard those stories before from machinists.
Yeah.
And so he took on some partners over time, and he ended up having over time 3 different partners, from bad to worse to criminal, and he sold out to that guy was borrowing money from the family trust, loaning it to the business, and the business never saw any of it. But by the end of that, my dad was working for the company, and he was machining, but he was also vice president of something. I was in school still. That partner had gone through Chapter 11, did the whole reorganization, and then still closed the doors. I was in high school, and I remember saying to my dad, "What are you going to do? Like, I need to eat. I play high school football. I like to eat. And
Sure.
and so he said, your mom and I are going to buy up the assets." And I said, "Oh, well, the machines." And he goes, "No. Back at that time, it was Brown and Sharp's. Have you ever heard of an auto turn?" I'll never forget the auto turn. It was a pegboard machine. So you'd put the pegs in, and that would move. That would be so it was kind of the precursor to a CNC, I guess.
Even precursor to tape machines.
Yeah. And they had Brown and Sharp, so the screw machines, and he said no. He goes, it's not the equipment that I want. And I brought some just to show you, but it's the sample boxes. It's the parts that my grandfather had spent all the years, the valve bodies, and then the original samples that were, this is what he used to make the parts.
Yeah.
And so I remember growing up, because of course, as a kid, you worked in your grandfather's shop, but he always said it's plumbing parts. It's plus or minus, does it fit? We're not making aerospace. And so we didn't have prints for the longest time even. Oh, wow. But that's what my dad wanted to buy. He wanted to buy those tooling boxes, all those original parts.
The real IP right there.
So, and then from there, I remember right out of high school, right when I got out of high school, he bought his first CNC, and I was, of course, I have got 3 younger brothers, and we all said we were never going to work for the family business. There's no way, right?
I've heard that so many times.
And all 4 of us went to college, and did other things before we came back. So I actually was the only one that didn't get a business degree. I went to school originally. I was pre-seminary, and I was like, okay, this is not for me. I just got done listening to your
Court Delasky.
That was good. Yeah, he was great. He was phenomenal. What a mission. Mission centric, right? It's about the culture. But I was pre-sem originally. Said no, I'm not doing that. I got a degree in recreational therapy, physical education degree. Worked in a psych hospital with adolescents, and so I always joked around that it prepared me for running a business, but working in a psych hospital. But but uh, I burn out on that, and my dad said, "Hey, why don't you come back and work for me?" So I came back. They were in California at the time, and I said, "Well, I don't want to move back to California." He said, "We're moving to Colorado." And I said, "Well, can you call me when you get there?" And he goes, "No, you got to get out here and help me move the company and get ready." So I ended up coming back, and I actually ran Acme Gridley screw machines, six spindle
Mm-hmm.
screw
Mm-hmm.
machines. That's what I did for the first 5, 6 years, probably, for the company, and then ended up learning the CNCs. We moved out here from California. We had two Acmes. His first CNC was a Miyano BNC 34T machine, and it was like a Brown and Sharp, where it had a tail, stock, turret, and then the main turret. And so it's something he knew. It was that same kind of, this is how we make parts. So we're going to buy that machine. We ended up coming out with two CNCs and two Acmes when we moved out here. I got rid of the Acmes years ago, and we now have 15 CNC lathes. We've got I think we're at 37 team members now today. Probably still need to hire another one.
Okay.
We're on pace right now for about 8.1 million for the year. So
Fantastic. Good for you guys.
yeah, the growth has been phenomenal. It's taken a long time to learn that, to understand that, and figure out what the marketing and the sales that go into that.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, you're a little bit of a different. Most of my guests are job shops,
Yeah.
right? They're just contract manufacturer. Whereas you're an OEM.
Yeah.
You make
We're made to stock. We're making replacement parts that a lot of OEMs that are, in fact, most of what we make, I'd say 80% of what we make is no longer available. It's discontinued. And so it's either they buy it from China or Taiwan, or they buy it from us. There's no one in the United States making parts like we are, in the repair market. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And we're really good at setups, short runs. So we're high mix, low volume. We do, on 15 machines, we do 15 to 30 setups a day on average.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was because when you said you got rid of your Acme Gridleys,
Yeah.
I mean, I still, know shops that still use those and love them.
Yeah.
That just, there's no faster way to pump out parts.
Yeah.
But if you're doing multiple setups per day, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's and we'll run as few as 10 parts. But there's a lot of repetition, or I guess family of parts is really what it is. There's, we run a lot of different stems. And so it's got a center drill, tap, broach, single point thread. We do a lot of unique 29-degree Acme double lead, 3/4 threads. It's, 3/4 8 double lead threads. So coarse threads. And it's all of our machinists are trained in house. None of them were machinists before they came to work for us.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow, we should definitely dig in.
So that's the other thing. We're in Fort Morgan, Colorado. So it's about an hour northeast of Denver. So from DIA, we're straight shot towards Nebraska. We're on the plains. My parents picked this town to be able to be in a small town. They retired to LA, and so we moved out here. It's been it'll be 31 years in December, so that we've been out here. And we moved out here, there was 6 of us. It was my dad, myself, one CNC machinist, one secondary operation, front office, and shipping. So that was, and now like I said, we're at 37. So.
And when did you take the helm from your dad?
Oh man, that's a complicated question. It shouldn't be, but it is. So again, all my brothers work with me. So all 4 of us are here in the building, and we all said we were never gonna work for the company. We all did. So I slowly started taking over more and more things as I was running machines. We'd run out of bar, and I'm like, "How are we out of bar?" Like we go through a certain amount of brass bar stock every week. Now it's at like 7,000 pounds a week. But back then it was less, a lot less. But we'd run out of bar. I'm like, how come you didn't order bar? And he's like, no, I forgot. I was busy with this. I was busy with that. He was doing too many things, wearing hats. So I just kept taking over more and more things, took over the scheduling, took over the ordering, took over. Eventually I worked my way into the director of operations position, and then the COO position, which there wasn't much difference, but and by then my brothers were all in the business then too. And it's been 10 years ago. So funny story, podcasts. One of my good friends was starting a podcast. It's called The Three Gun Show. He stopped it here recently, but he's like, hey, can you listen to this? And I'm like, I don't know anything about podcasts, but sure, I'll give you my 2 cents. And it was boring for me just because I'm not into three gun. But I gave him, here's my, and I said, there's got to be some podcasts out there that I would like to listen to, because this is a new thing. So I was like, well, I like the Los Angeles Dodgers. I was born and raised in LA. So I'm still a Dodger fan. So that was awful. And then I started looking at machining, and there was nothing. And I found making chips, and it was by just pure luck, I think, because of the name. But my grandfather always said the same tagline: if you're not making chips, you're not making money. That was something I actually told Jim and Jason years ago, that we had the same saying in the family. But I saw an Entree Leadership podcast, and I remembered that Dave Ramsey had a book called Entree Leadership, and I knew that because my wife and I had, probably about 10 years before that, we read The Total Money Makeover, and that for us, it changed our marriage. We literally did not fight about money ever again. We still don't.
Oh,
it was just because we put everything on a budget. It was like we budgeted everything, and it was like, well, this is where the money's going. We didn't follow everything in The Total Money Makeover, but it was definitely a game changer for our marriage. So I thought, well, I'll read the book, because I knew the book was there. I'll read the book before I start listening to podcasts. And reading the book, he takes a lot of the Jim Collins, Patrick Lencioni, John Maxwell, and he says that. He goes, I take all the stuff that I've learned from those guys, those thought leaders, and this is the playbook. And so I read the book, and in the book he talks about, he'd come home at night after 12-hour days, and his wife would go, what'd you do today? And he's like, I have no idea. Because all he did was, put out fires. It was, hamster in a hamster wheel.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, that's me. That's all. I have no idea what I do. It's just react. And so I finished the book, and then I pounded out probably 100 podcasts in a month of his. And at the same time, I started listening to Making Chips and some of those things. And I went to my brothers and I said, I can't do this anymore. I've got tons of friends that are saying, why don't you come work for me? Make some real money. Come work for me. And so I told my brothers, said, either we take over the business or I'm out. And they said, okay. And my dad, to his credit, I walked into his office and said, you're no longer in charge. We're taking over the business. And he said, cool. And
wow,
I'm being a little bit, it's a little bit of hyperbole, but he kind of disappeared for a few months. He went up to Montana, went hunting, did some fishing over here, and I felt like I called him every day. It was like, this is miserable. What am I doing? Because I didn't know what I didn't know, and he didn't prepare me for taking over the business because he didn't know what he didn't know. Right? He was a machinist by trade, probably, and knew a little bit about running a business, but not to the level of leadership. That entrepreneurship leadership aspect of it. So it was about 2015 that we took over the business, and I feel like I'm storytelling this whole entire time, but it's
storytelling is the best way to do it.
But so we took over, and again, not knowing what I don't know, but the first thing I did, because the thing that I knew that had to change was the culture. And so that's the first thing. First thing we did was even a little thing such as changing the vocabulary in the building. So there was no longer employees, there was no longer bosses, there was no longer managers. Those words were banned from the building, basically. And I said, we have team members, we have team leaders. That's the way we're going to talk about things from now on in the building. And that was kind of the beginning. The other thing that I did right away was say, in this building, shit flows uphill. Excuse my language. I don't.
That's okay.
But the idea that ultimately everything in the building that goes wrong is going to be my fault. So the people are here because I either hired them, trained them, or retained them. So taking that responsibility of saying we're gonna put processes in place, we're gonna change the hiring, we're gonna we put a no gossip policy in place. It's one of those things where I'll warn you once and then I'll fire you. I'm not even playing games with it. The core values were easy for me. The first 5 came out of just the way my dad treated people. And so, it's family first, serve others, build relationships. We value small business, and Made in America matters. The 6th one came along a little later, but in the beginning with those 5, I said, this is how we define it. And then this is what it looks like in the building. So
I'm looking at the sheet you sent me, and it's fantastic.
Well, it's how we do it. Like, you can change your mission, you can change your vision, but you cannot change your core values. That should be buried in the ground as deep as it possibly can in concrete, with if something happened where the company was sold and somebody comes in and says, oh yeah, we're getting rid of that, everybody that's in the building should be like, maybe I'm not staying, because that's what we do in the building. I can make new part. I don't have to stay in plumbing. We can go machine something else. But so the mission, the vision part can change, but the values need to be consistent. Over time, I added a 6th core value, and that's work should be fulfilling. There should be work fulfillment. You should and that's if you think about Jim Collins, you should be pulling up into the building. You shouldn't be going, because either you're on the wrong seat on the bus or on the wrong bus altogether, if that's the situation. So we have those conversations with people on a regular basis that this is, if you're not happy, then something's wrong. And so we need to decide there's plenty of days that people are unhappy. It's work. It's still work. But it shouldn't be constant. It shouldn't be consistent. So we changed the culture. We started doing 2 team meetings a month. We still do that today. We have a team recognition meeting at the beginning of the month. We celebrate work anniversaries, and we celebrate birthdays. So we bring in cake, ice cream, pies, whatever, sing happy birthday and God's blessings to whoever's the birthdays that month. And then we celebrate whoever's work anniversary is there. And then we do a team building at the end of every month. And those are, we stop working. If the machines are on, they're running, but everybody stops working. We bring in lunch. Everybody sits down. We break bread together, and we talk about mission, vision, values, culture. We have in November, we do, because again, the serve others thing, we have a local nonprofit come in, and they come in and talk. We do for our, I want to put my money where my mouth is when it comes to a core value. So for serve others, we talk about how if you're inward facing, if that's all you're doing, inward facing, you're going to be a miserable human being and nobody's going to want to be around you. If you're outward facing, right, you're focused on others, then people are going to be attracted to you, want to be around you, hang out. So we give an hour of PTO for every hour you serve in a local nonprofit. We have a list of 6 PTOs or 6 nonprofits in town in Morgan County that if you serve there, you can get an hour of PTO. So for every hour.
I love that.
So we do that in November, and then December we do a potluck. Otherwise, the other 10 months are sometimes it's just we're going to play some games, shop trivia, or something fun, and we give out prizes. Sometimes it's just in January we always do the whole entire. This is our mission, this is our vision, this is our values, this is where they come from. It's just we're going to, because unless I'm repeating myself 100 times, no one's going to remember it. Right? It's in my head all the time, but it's got to come out of my mouth often. And then usually around May or June, we'll do a finances team building where we put up all the numbers and say, this is where our sales are at. This is where bonuses and insurance and wages are at for the year. And break it all down so people can see where the money is, where it's going, and it's a high level. It's not granular like I'd like it still eventually to be. I hear a lot of machine shops talk about it, a lot of business people talk about, how in depth they get into with their team members. And I'd like to be able to do that eventually. We're not there yet. So with the family first core value, that's another thing. We provide insurance. We provide insurance for the team member and their family. Just
that's wonderful.
Well, it's important if we're
especially these days.
Yeah. So anyway, so we focused on the culture. We spent the first probably 4 years doing that. The issue is I wasn't paying attention to the finances the way I should have. And so we actually, after about 3 or 4 years, it was 2015, so 2018, so 3 years into it, I was giving out raises and focusing on culture and some of those things. We did some lean training and brought in, with our MEP, some of that. And then the next thing I knew, our line of credit was maxed out. We were in some tight financial situations, and I was like, how the hell did we get here? Wasn't paying attention. Again, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
And so my brothers and I, we all took a $10,000, $11,000 pay cut, and we froze salaries. And I went to the bank and said, can you help us here? Just a little bit of an increase in the line of credit to help us get through this. And they said, no, you're not profitable. And if you were profitable, we'd be able to do something. And I said, well, if I was profitable, I wouldn't be coming to you for asking for this. And I will never ask again. And by 2020, the line of credit was zero. We do not touch it. It's there, but we just don't touch it. We're financial. But again, it just made more. From that point on, we met every week and went over cash flow, profit loss, finances. We have a meeting every Tuesday at 4:00. My brothers and I come in the office. If my dad's in the building, he'll come in too, and we'll close the door and just go over. We have a whole agenda that we cover from production side to hiring side to marketing and sales. And then last year, just because we're talking about the journey, last year we hired EBITDA Growth Systems, and I know you know those guys, and I actually heard them on a Making Chips podcast, and I think I heard them on Jim's podcast, Jim Carr's podcast, and then I think I saw you and them with the Machine Shop Rescue, right? Isn't that what you guys called it? Mm-hmm. And so I saw that, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to reach out to them, and so that's something we started last year. It's been almost a year. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah. That's been and it was funny because Dave came in here and goes, he sat down with us, looked at things, and goes, you don't need us. He goes, there's 4 of you making decisions. You're going to make the right decision 90% of the time or more. It's rare you're going to make a bad decision now. He goes, but we can help you still. And they've been great. It's been good to focus on things we haven't looked at, some inventory, because again, we're made to stock. So that's where we're different than the majority of machine shops. So many of them are job shops. So it's not made to stock. And then you have the ones that are the OEM based. But even them, I've got good friends that are in the plumbing industry that are manufacturers, and I tease Prior Products. They manufacture hydrants, wall hydrants for your hoses and stuff like that. Yep. And I'm good friends with the Poskins, they're the owners, and I tease them all the time. I'm like, you guys have one machinist, 15 machines, and you set up 15 to 30 jobs a year. I do that in a day, so it's a little bit of a different.
No kidding.
Focus.
So when you were maxed out with your line of credit and they wouldn't increase it.
Yeah.
What did you do to get it down to zero in 2 years?
Well, I froze salaries. We took a big pay cut, and then I looked at prices. We hadn't increased prices since we had to have increased prices at some point with my dad in charge, but it wasn't there was no price increase process. And now, I mean, that's something we've done. It's every year in January we look at costs and prices, and here's what our price increase is going to be this year. It could be 2%, it could be 6%. It's really based on what the market's doing. And then if brass takes just a crazy ride for any reason, which it has done, because again, that's 90%, 95% of what we machine is brass, 7,000 pounds a week. So if that takes a crazy ride, then we'll end up. I've actually lowered prices, which I got some flack from customers about. You just appreciated my inventory. So,
wow.
So it's like, all right, well, sorry, I'll try not to lower prices ever again. But we had this time in it was right after COVID, 2020, where brass just went through the roof. And I said, if it comes back down, I'm going to lower prices. And it came back down a little bit. And so I lowered it a little bit. And people they weren't thrilled about it lowering. I'm like, all right, well, I'll remember that next time.
They're just passing it along to their customers.
Yeah. So they didn't care if we raise prices. They just didn't want us to lower the prices. That was probably the main thing that we did was the raising prices on a regular basis. But we also really looked at costs and efficiencies, and made sure that we were doing the best we could with every penny. We had sales reps at the time that I would travel occasionally with, and go visit customers. But it wasn't. We didn't see the needle move from the reps at all. It was very little, and I knew that there had to be a better way. And so I have 3 of my kids working in the business right now. One of my nephews. I'm eventually going to get more of them back, but want them to get out there and do some more things. But my youngest son has the sales gene. I don't know what else to say. He could sell ice to Eskimos. He thought he was going to go to college, and I said, "You hate school. I'm not paying for it. I'm not doing it. You're following your girlfriend." So he went to NJC, which is in Sterling, Colorado, and I said, you have to get a job. And so he went to work at Home Depot, and he was doing an amazing job there. They actually had a film crew come out from Atlanta to Sterling, Colorado to film this 20-year-old kid. And I was screaming at him, "Get out of there. Go sell used cars. Go find something that has, commissions." And eventually he came and went to my wife and said, his mom, and said, "Do you think Dad would let me come back and work for him?" And so he came back in 2018, and I put him on the shop floor. It's like, you're gonna do the things you did when you were a kid and learn the business from there. And so he went from machine shop to warehouse, shipping, and then eventually into sales. And after COVID was the first year that he and I started going on the road together, and we put a sales plan in place. We use HubSpot for our marketing, but we also use it for our CRM, for our customer relations management. We have a plugin on it. It's called Map My Customer. We've loaded every individual location of every plumbing supply house in the country is loaded in there. And so he'll plan and I have another salesman now too, but he'll plan his whole trip. Okay, well, I'm going to fly into Kansas City, and I'm going to for 5 days. And so the very first trip we did, we left Fort Morgan, Colorado. This was trying to prove out my theory of how to do sales calls as opposed to the way the reps were doing it. And so we went from Fort Morgan, Colorado at 5:00 in the morning on a Monday, drove down Colorado Springs, all the way down through New Mexico, all the way down to El Paso, Texas, and all the way back up through Lubbock and all that area. We did 40 stops in 5 days, and generated a ton of new business. And so that was the beginning. And it was like, all right, this is the way we're going to do this. And so he just started traveling over the whole entire Western United States, and one week every month. And he hits when he flies in, he drives, he'll drive into Logan, Utah. I think that's the one that hits the most. He has 63 stops starts in Logan, Utah, and all the way down to Mesquite. Nevada, and then back up, and he'll do 63 stops in 5 days, and sees all the plumbing supply houses there. And so we've grown since 2021. I think actually 2020 we started growing, but it's been 15% or more every year since then.
Wow.
So, and then we hired a salesman to cover the Eastern US, which is even more territory. I mean, the East is awful. It's just stacked on top of, of each other. He can, my Eastern salesman, he's great. I love him. He used to be a customer, and he can get one hotel room and stay in that one place for a week and still hit 50 people. So it's a much more dense, population dense in the Eastern US.
Yeah. I've seen that in various maps of, manufacturing activity or whatever it might be. That is remarkable. On some of the podcasts I've done and making chips and by the numbers, like, and even the Machine Shop Growth podcast.
Oh yeah, I've listened to it.
It's like,
I listen to all of them.
Go visit your customers, right?
Yeah.
Get in there, get in front of them, sit down with them.
How much work are you leaving on the table, right? That's the premise of that first episode. Is like, this is where you got to focus first, is your existing customers. So
yeah, it's the lowest hanging fruit. This is just an aside, but do you come up into the very Pacific Northwest?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've got one of our really good customers is up in Seattle. The Part Works. They're great, but you've got a bunch of different plumbing supply houses that are up there that we visit. Aurora, Part Works. From Oregon. There's tons.
We have this iconic hardware store in Bellingham, Washington.
Okay.
It's called Hardware Sales.
Okay.
And, they have a vast supply, much, much bigger than any big box store. And the guys that work in those departments just know
everything.
They know everything.
Yeah.
They're just, they're old guys. They just know it like the back of their hand. I love it.
We don't do a lot of hardware stores.
But I'm guessing they're getting stuff.
Oh, probably. Yeah. From our customers. Yeah. And we've got a lot of customers that are repackagers. And so they're packaging up the product and then putting them in the hardware stores and things like that. But a lot of the hardware stores, though, are like the Aces and stuff. They have the Chinese product that are, kind of part of their package. So
sure. Well, I was actually wanted to ask you that why, and I love the America Made Matters.
Yeah.
About core value.
Yeah.
How do you compete with those Chinese suppliers? You find companies that just have the same values that you have?
We've got a bunch of different things, and again, some of it's the marketing. We have a help desk, so that Parts Hero. Let's see that way. That Parts Hero logo there. So we say to the plumbing supply house, we will make you the Parts Hero to your customer. You'll be the Parts Hero. You're the hero of the story, and they have a customer comes in and brings a part. Okay. So they walk in here and they're like, hey, I don't know what this is, right? What is it? And so they'll take a picture of it. They don't need to know what it is. Our customer doesn't. They can take a picture of it. We have a help desk email and a texting function, and we have 8 sets of eyes on that. And so they can send that to us. We'll ID it for them. Price, availability, all in the same email. And we get 1,000 a week, 1,000 emails and texts a week. And so we've just become really, and we've got, with that marketing, we have counter mats that have that Parts Hero, and it's got a ruler on it. It's got, I'm not sure what the camera just did. Sorry about that. But it's got a ruler.
They can just lay it on the ruler.
They can lay it on the ruler, take a picture on it, and there's QR codes on that counter mat, and so they can, right from their phone, bring that up and send it to us. So it's kind of cool to be able to help the customer that way. And 95%, we did a little bit of a study one time where we actually, how many of these turn into orders, and it was 95%. 95% of those emails and texts were turning into orders for us. And they're small, but we're making that customer the Parts Hero, and so it just turns into a great relationship. And we're not trying to be the cheapest. I mean, I have no desire whatsoever. But if somebody walks in and they need that part, Well, guess what? They don't care, right? It's like, I've been everywhere. I don't know what this is. I need to get this part.
How many different SKUs do you think you make?
Make wise, so machine wise, I think we're what did Franklin, because Franklin pulled numbers for me last year, because I was like, okay, we got to make sure we're looking at how many times we're machining something a year, and the I wanted to say, I think we have 7,000 SKUs that we machine, but I think we're like 30,000 total SKUs, because you got to remember that even though we're machining something, we're also assembling it, because nothing's just a one piece
Right.
thing. And so you've got all these other SKUs for the assembly and stuff like that.
variants and all
So
that.
yeah,
Mhm. That's a lot to keep track of.
it is. It's kind of crazy there.
Is your phone or your text and email thing, is that part of HubSpot, or is that a
No, it's not. It's all we've got a help desk email, and it's a group email, and then the texting we're using ProKeep. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but it's a texting function app, whatever, and it's on the computer for us,
nice?
so it works well.
Super cool.
But that's, again, it's when my salesmen go to a plumbing supply house, they go, we don't do parts, right? We don't do parts. It's too confusing. It's too hard. Oh, well, here, let me show you how to make it easy. And now it's they buy in pretty quickly to what we're trying to do to help them. And again, sooner or later, the box scorer is going to send the person that can't find something to that independent plumbing wholesaler, because they'll take the time and help the person. So, but
sounds like a winning formula.
It's been good. It's a lot of work, but it's good.
Yeah. When you brought in your core values, I wanted to ask a little bit more about that. Did you lose anybody, or what was the impact of really?
We've lost people in the past 10 years, period, right? I mean, that's just nature of the beast. I don't think anybody was lost when we brought in the core values, but when we froze salaries, we definitely lost a few people. This will be interesting to you. So 37 team members. The average tenure, if your last name is not Walter, is 11 years. So I've got let's see, the second operations guy, my team leader, the second operations team leader, he moved out here with us from California, so he's been with my dad for 35 years, almost 40 now. I think it's coming close to 40. I'm going to have a machinist retire in January after 27 years. My director of operations, she's been here for 18 years. She started out on the warehouse floor, and now she's in charge of everything from machines to the shipping, receiving, assembly, all of it. She's in charge of all of it. She does, ordering and scheduling, and so we've got a long tenured team. The youngest people are probably on the machine shop floor, because I keep adding there as we grow. So we're just hired a new guy this year that I was like, we don't really need a new one, but we have a really robust hiring process. So it's
tell us about
okay. So we have 3 to 4 interviews. Okay. So the first interview we call a drive-by. It's typically 15 minutes of one person, my director of operations nowadays, she's the one that sits and does it. But it's 15 minutes of her saying, this is how we behave as an organization, right? We have no gossip policy. Here are our core values. Here's the things we do. Here are the benefits. Here's the starting pay at your position when you start. And then it's 15 minutes of you tell us about you. And then, is there a reason for us to continue the conversation then after that 30, 40 minute conversation? If there is, then we're going to set up a second interview. And then that's typically a team leader, maybe her again, maybe a team member. But it's going to be two to 3 people then, and that'll be about an hour. And it's going to be fairly basic, interview questions, what your strengths and weaknesses, but there'll be some other ones in there too that we're trying to see, are you a good cultural fit?
Yeah, sure.
And then the last one, well, the third one is typically with me, and then another team member or team leader. And that one, it can last as long as an hour and a half. It really just depends on how the questions go. Because I just dig in. I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about that. And I ask some silly questions too, like what's the one question we haven't asked you that you hope we don't? Just I want to get them talking about themselves and their family and their relationship with people, and how do they serve, and what are they reading, what are they doing to become better, and so we'll just really start digging into what motivates them. And we're looking for humble, hungry, smart. That's a Patrick Lencioni thing. Problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills, and social skills. And so if you have those 6 things, we can teach you to do anything, because you're going to be, the person that we want in the building. So depending on what the position is we're hiring for, we'll possibly do what we call a spousal interview. That we say that only internally, where we'll actually invite the prospective team. This is when we're like, we want to hire this person. And so we're going to take that person and their significant other to dinner with myself and my wife, or one of my brothers and their wives. And we're going to just, make sure that significant other understands this is how we behave. Here's our core values. So if he or she comes home and says, oh no, I can't make Junior's game, they're lying to you, because the first core value is family first. And that means you should be able to not just go to your kids' events and sports things. You should be able to lead and coach them, because we'll shift your schedule just so you can go do that, because that's way more important than what we're doing in the building. It's family first. And so we're adamant about that. We have one of the stories I like to tell prospects when they're coming in is the second lead in the shipping. Her oldest son was going to state for football, and he was a junior. And they were doing a parade in town. Like they were going to, leave the school, and the parade was going to go all through this town before they left for state. And it was the last day of the month. And she's like, I can't go. It's the last day of the month. And everybody in the building's like, you will go. and they were like, you're pushing her out the door. You're going to go. And that's literally the buy-in we expect from everybody in the building. This is more important than the work you're doing, is that family that you have at home waiting for you. So we have that conversation with the significant other about how we behave, and then we're also getting to know them a little bit, because I one of the things I tell anybody, it's like, you need to have your kids and your spouse. I'd like them to come through the building in your first 3 months and get a tour and see the place and see what you do and who you work with and what the expectations are, and because it's a part of what it's an extension of you at that point when you're spending that many days and that many hours a day,
Right.
doing something that's providing for your family, hopefully.
I think I want to come work for you, Barry. It sounds awesome.
It's not, right? I mean, it's work.
But still.
But it's important. And to me, again, it gets back to that. I introduced that last core value, that work fulfillment one, the work should be fulfilling. I introduced that, I think it's been about 4 years. And it was right after we got out of COVID. So it was about 4 years ago. And I remember I came in, I said, hey, for our team building today, I told my brothers, I said, we're going to do a new core value. And my brother Nathaniel was like, what? Where do you get off just in putting a new core value without talking to us about it? And I said, it's work fulfillment. He goes, oh, we talk about that all the time. I'm like, exactly. So that's what makes it a core value, is that it's already part of our DNA. Let's put it on purpose on paper so that we're, doing those things.
Yeah. I mean, people always say you spend more time at work than very often at home,
right.
And you better enjoy that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was, I've always remembered there was it was an engineering firm that was a customer of ours back in the Pro CNC days. And when I asked them about their hiring, because they had just so many wonderful people, he said part of the interview process is when they're getting to the end, kind of like you were saying, but rather than going out to dinner, they invite, the person and their spouse to like to their house to have a dinner
Ooh.
or a group dinner
With all the team
or with the the
leadership.
senior leaders or something.
That sounds a great idea.
A few couples. And he said, then we watch like how they treat their spouse,
how they treat the servers. That's what we do.
Do they volunteer to help clean up? Like these little, these little behaviors, these little, they're like, this is a person that jumps in, is super kind, is, or not. And
The other thing I found is that my sister-in-laws and my wife have different intuition than I do sometimes. And not that I don't have good intuition, it's just they have different. And so they pick up on things that we don't, always see. And it's sometimes I'll get a hire the spouse. It's funny. So
that's awesome.
But
that's awesome.
But it's to us it's important that the person's going to fit in, right? They're going to be successful, and I want them to be successful when they come into the building. So, so
when they are, you are going to.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But everybody will be, right? It's then a opportunity for the whole team to get better and grow. Again, when we're training all our machinists in house, and so and that includes programming. So they write their own programs, they set up their own machines, and we've got 5 of one machine, 3 of another, 3 of another, and 4 of another. And so the 15 machines they're kind of these cells that are, and so you want them to start out, okay, this is a basic machine. It's a 3-axis, lathe, and everything's got bar feeders on it. So everything's, automated. Because even though we'll sometimes only run 10 pieces, there's times we'll run 10,000 pieces. I just finished a job that ran for a week now, I think, but it was steel and threaded, and so it's all kinds of fun. It's not brass, so I don't get to just dip it and rip it.
Yeah, sure.
But we want to train them to grow, and so we'll do training for maintenance. So we have somebody that's in charge of maintenance, somebody that's learning maintenance, tooling. So all of our tool grinding, is another training process, and everybody should eventually learn to be able to make their own 29-degree Acme thread inserts, and understand a double lead and the clearance you have to have on it, and so we've got processes to teach them that. So
how do you organize all that training and those processes? And
not as well as I would like to. We've got a chart that's on the tooling cabinet, but it's not updated as fast as I would like. Usually I have to tell I've got 2 primary operations team leaders, and I'm going, hey, has that been updated in a while? It's like, no. So that's one, it's one of many areas that our MRP ERP system is not as robust as ProShop is. It's one of the things I love listening to your podcasts and making chips and just talking to other machine shops and hearing about the things they're using ProShop for. We're not a ProShop user, but I love what you do, and so I love plugging it. But as a made to stock machine or made to stock machine shop, it's definitely the ERP system is such a dirty business before you guys got involved. It's that's another story. I took 6 months researching and before ProShop existed. This is back in 2008. I think it was 2008. Yeah, 2007, 2008. When did you start your?
We actually sold our first customer in 2009, but that was well before we actually went public.
Right. I've heard all the stories.
2016.
Okay.
Till we
it was 2018 that I met you at the IMTS. So that was the first time I met you. I was on the stage there with Jim and Jason and Nick's dad. Before Nick got involved, Nick's dad was on the stage on the panel with me at IMTS. But anyways, it took 6 months research because my dad was still using an old, and this is back when I was still the director of operations, and he was using an old DOS system, and it was just it was just like we dot matrix printers and DOS and it was like, this is a nightmare. Everything was mailed, invoices were mailed. I mean,
wow.
We didn't fax we didn't even fax crap. It was just awful. And so I wanted a system that we could, email. I mean, email is a thing now. So I wanted to be able to email. I wanted to, get rid of mailing invoices. I wanted customers to have an order acknowledgement because they didn't have that. And so I wanted to automate things. And so I spent 6 months. I researched, 4 ERP, MRP systems, traveled to 3 states. I thought I was doing all my due diligence, spent $125,000. And a year later, we still were not live because I was like, we can't, this is awful. And I couldn't find the salesman. I wanted to find the salesman. You've heard these stories before, I'm sure, before you.
Yeah, of course.
And it was like, I wanted to find the salesman because the implementation team would come in and they'd tell you, oh, well, yeah, I can do that, but it's going to cost you more. And it's like, yeah, that's not what the salesman told me. So anyways, it was,
I'm sorry. This industry has such a bad reputation.
That's how my third brother got into the business. So my brother Lauren is 5 years younger than me. My parents had us 20 years apart. So they had me when they were young. They were 18 when they had me. They had Lauren 5 years later. I said that they had me and they thought, oh, let's have another one. They had Lauren. They're like, oh, let's not do that again. And they waited 11 years. And then they had Franklin. They wanted a girl. So they tried one more time. They had a boy. And then when I was 19 and I was home I'm trying to remember, but I remember my mom called my dad and said, I'm pregnant. And my dad's like, no, you're not. Mom's like, let me tell you, buddy, I know when I'm pregnant. Anyway, so that's Nathaniel. But Franklin was the third brother, was working in California. This is 2008. And we hadn't gone live. It'd been a year. And I'm like, Ugh. And he had moved. So he'd graduated and his wife was got accepted into doctorate school down in San Diego. So they moved from Irvine, California down to San Diego. And of course, he quit his job to move down there in 2008 and he'd show up to a job interview and there's 100 people and he couldn't get a job. And my dad was telling him about the problems we were having. And he's like, well, what do you want it to do? And so he just got on and coded, and he still does a lot of coding for us, but he just started coding stuff. And so he customized our system.
Right.
And it made a huge difference. So when we went live, we were ready finally, but yeah, ERPs.
How many people did you have at the time, 2008?
We were probably about 15, 18, somewhere in there.
And you spent $125.
Yeah, I know, right?
That is
stupid.
That's like an order of magnitude more.
Yeah, thanks. One more.
Sorry.
hey, you better.
But back in the day, that was kind of probably pretty normal.
It was
right?
I had one of our vendors was in here last night, and we were going to dinner on our biggest vendor, and they're switching from Oracle to SAP and he's just like, this is going to be the worst year ever.
Well, there's a company not far from here that is a bigger company, not with a few hundred people, but they. I remember the story. I was talking to one of their senior leaders, and they spent $1 million on buying SAP, and then they spent $7 million on implementation. It nearly
bankrupted.
It nearly killed the company.
Yeah, shouldn't be like that. And that's the thing that's why. That's why I've been a fan of yours since the beginning. It's because everything you say makes sense, and you're so honest and earnest about what you guys do and why you do it. It's because you want people to be successful. You want to be there, 5-10 years from now, helping that company still. I'm not trying to sell you a bill of goods now. I'm trying to be your partner for forever. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Well, it is. Yeah, actually, I'm preparing some presentations for an all hands meeting next week, and about our mission.
Okay.
And I just believe so hard in that mission, right?
Yeah.
And it comes down to helping companies so they can build their communities,
right?
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Because we need. Not that you should have more competition, but we need more manufacturers in the U.S.
I'm not even worried about seriously. I just started talking to the foundry that does our casting, small little place here in Colorado, and he has no exit strategy, and so It would be our sixth
Oh, you've
acquisition.
done 6
6 or 7. Yeah, I think it might be 7. If we
You should be on by the
By
numbers
the
with
way, yeah,
Mike.
with Mike. I love Mike.
Yeah, you
Mike's great.
absolutely
I met
should.
him in 2018 too. Jason introduced me to him, so it
That's
was
the
good.
year that he and I met.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came and he said, "I came to IMTS to see you."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then he bought Pro Shop. So
He did.
yeah,
He
now
did.
and he's a big fan ever since. So yeah,
Yeah.
we bought out 2 competitors. That was back in the day when I probably was director of operations with the second one. 2 competitors we bought out and, bought some machinery and equipment, but just basically just were trying to put them out of business just to go away. And then we bought an importing company. So they were importing all the parts that go with the stuff we make. So your handles, escutcheons, none of that stuff's made in the U.S. And so we bought them to complement our parts and to really be able to compete better against our competition. So our competition is bringing everything in, handles, escutcheons, stems, and we were just supplying stems. And so the competition would buy from us, but only stuff that they couldn't import. And so it was like, you know what? We're going to go after you and your market share. So we brought in the handles and escutcheons. Then we had a company they were making ball cocks. So the brass fill valve in a toilet. Most of them are plastic, but there's still the Cesco brass, and they were in Connecticut, and so we bought them, and they would get their castings made, but they would have to have the castings machined outside. And so my dad looked at it and said, "Oh, this is a great opportunity. We can do all the machining parts on everything." And it's funny because about a year before that, he had on eBay had bought a Fadal mill, and we're a lathe shop, and I don't know how to run a mill, not a CNC mill. And he bought this on eBay, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, I do not need this in my building. Like, this is before I took over. This is in my way." And he's like, "Well, I always wanted one." So now, of course, it's used often because we buy the castings, have the castings made here in Colorado, and then we machine all the castings. So that was Cesco. And then we bought last year, we bought Suncraft Industries. They're out of Bellflower, California. And then we bought a competitor / customer, bought his inventory last year. Both of those fell on our lap. I wasn't looking for them. It just happened. But we were buying the book of business, the customers, some of that. So it's been good.
You might be in the casting business.
Yeah, that's what I want next. And I started talking to him on last month. Yeah, in April, I started talking to him about, what's your plan? He's like, 6 years. I said, well, he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, Brooks, we need to talk because I want it.
Yeah,
I want to buy it.
That's both risk and the opportunity for security.
I don't see the risk because, and this is
the risk if he goes out of business.
Oh yeah, if he goes out of business, then I got to find somebody else. Here's the thing that most, and this is why podcasts are awesome. Most of us don't know what we don't know. And that was the case for me 10 years ago. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. I made so many bad decisions. I still make so many bad decisions because I don't know. And so the more I can learn, right, the better I'm going to be. And I look at companies like the one that does our castings, and they don't have salesmen. They don't have marketing. They don't hire well. And that's the biggest thing. More than anything else that I see out there is machine shops, plumbers, electricians. Oh, I can't find anybody that wants to work. I can't. Bull. There's plenty of people that want to work. You just got to find the right ones, and you got to be willing to invest the time and the money and give them the place that makes them feel a part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that's it more than anything else is we all want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And you can't just throw a body at everything. You have to find the right person that's gonna be the fit, that's gonna help everybody else in the building, not just a paycheck.
I love it so much. Wow. Bill Barry, you are a fantastic storyteller.
I did a lot of talking.
That's exactly how it should be. Yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of people applying to work for you after this comes out and wanting to move across country to work there.
It's funny because before COVID, seriously, because like COVID's changed everything. You've heard people talk about that. Ever since COVID, it's been. But before COVID, we had a job opening because we are known as one of the best places to work in Morgan County. I'll tell you, we are the best place to work in Morgan County. But I'm prejudiced. But before COVID, we'd have a job opening and we'd post it on Indeed and put it on Facebook, and we'd have 50 applicants in a town of 12,000 people.
Wow.
So it's but you have to build that culture. You have to build the foundation of who we are, why we exist. Starts with a why, right? That's Simon Sinek. Starts with why. So.
Oh man, this is so good. Well, Barry, if people want to find out more about your company, connect with you, how would you suggest they do that?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, but otherwise, Junior spelled out JUNIOR at barrywalter.com, and it's BARRYWALTER.com. So and
awesome.
And I love manufacturing. I love business. I love leadership. I think we don't have enough leaders in the world when it comes to business. I preach to my kids when they're looking, because like my oldest just got out of the Navy, and I'm like, you need to be interviewing the place you're going to go work as much as they're interviewing you. It's about how are they going to be a fit for you and your lifestyle and what you want to do. What opportunities are there for you? How do you create more value for them? Because if you're not creating more value for them, you're not worth more. We actually do with the machinists. We do what we call a value matrix. It's a 5-year plan, and they actually sit down and write out, in 1 year, this is what I'm going to learn. This is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to grow, and this is what I want to make is on the right-hand column. And it's like, okay, and so we kind of go through it and we structure it together. I'm like, well, is this fair? Is that fair? Okay, well, what about this? Are you going to learn this? What about these machines? Do you want to learn how to program this? And then we put that together for they hate it because it's really, you got to think 5 years from now, like, what do I want to, but it's a great opportunity and a great, time to talk about what can we do together as an organization to help you grow and to pay you more, and you to create more value so that we can pay you more. Because you got to create more value for us to pay you more.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great, transparent way to do it.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. They hate it. Like I said, it's like, I got to sit down and write all this out. And it's like, yeah, but it's good for you to think about. Right. Yeah. I did in the last year, and my brothers think I have too much time on my hands to do this, but I wrote a 4 or 5 page vision and manifesto for the company. And it's where I want to see and it's a 50-year plan. I'll be gone in 50 years. I won't be around, but this is where I want to see us as a family business, growing and thriving, and how we're serving our communities and our team. So,
well, you're already into the 4th generation, so you could easily be 5th and 6th and onward.
It's got to get everybody with the right mindset for sure.
Sure. Well, Barry, so much fun. Thank you very much for everything. And I will see you around at an event.
Yeah, well, I'll see you at the next IMTS for sure. So we usually bring.
Hopefully before that.
Yeah. Well, I don't get out as much as I'd like.
Well, I sometimes get to Denver, and if I do, I will.
Yeah, you should come out. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This has been super fun.
Okay. Have a great one.